Hello, I'm Cherry Kim, the PhD student in the Visual Media Lab. Today, I briefly introduce 3 papers related to skeleton-free character motion retargeting. And before we begin, I'm just starting to look for this topic for interest, so there may be some mistakes or loss of incomplete explanation. So please feel free to give any comments or feedback in the middle. Yep. The paper list that I'll introduce today is as follows. In general, for full body animation, we use the skeletal animation, which consists of joint transformation. And you can see in here, we rotate the joints and the hierarchically, the other child joints and bones are rotating. So by applying the joint transformation from animations made from humans or captured by motion capture system, you can see the following results. However, many data-driven motion researches I have studied have focused on only joint transformations and do not consider mesh. And in addition, skeletal animation has followed limitations. We need manual skeletal rigging and skinning for nice results with body models. And it is hard to retarget notions between topologically dissimilar skeletons. So recently, the skeletal-free motion retargeting methods have emerged. So I present one by one. So the first paper is the skeleton-free post-transfer for stylized 3D characters, which is published in ECCB last year. As you can see in the title, the authors proposed an automatic learning-based method for post-transfer between rig-free 3D characters with diverse shapes, topologies, and mesh connectivities. The more detailed inputs and outputs are as follows. Given 3 inputs, source mesh with the desired pose, source mesh in rest pose, and target mesh in rest pose, the post-transfer network estimates the target mesh deformed to a new pose which matches the input source pose.
What was the V bar S again?
V bar means the rest pose like T pose.
Okay.
Okay. To achieve their goal, they propose the post-transfer network as follows. It consists of multiple encoders for each input mesh and skinning weight predictors for each rest pose mesh and one decoder that estimates the vertex transformations from their outputs. So the mesh encoders encode the input mesh into a latent feature that embeds both pose and shape information. And skinning weight predictor estimates per vertex skinning weight that segment the mesh into K deformation parts. Then the outputs of encoder and predictors are concatenated and used as an input of the decoder. Note that the latent features of the source character is modified as the difference between the latent feature of post mesh and that of the rest mesh. And the vertex transformation matrix between the post mesh and rest mesh is computed to help the network focus on estimating residuals. And this can be computed with the iterative closest points algorithm that finds the transformation matrix that minimizes the distance between corresponding points. Then the decoder is learned to predict transformations on each deformation part of the target mesh. And with the predicting skinning weight WT, the desired pose of the target character is computed through the LBS linear blending skinning algorithm. To train the model, 3 datasets, the AMS, Mixamo, and RigNet were used for training, and multi-garment net was additionally used for evaluation. As you see in previous slides, their method successfully transfer the source pose to target character mesh with diverse shapes and topologies. Compared with other skeletal or mesh-based methods, the proposed method can match the source pose and preserve the character shape. For example, the Sen fails when only a single test mesh is given, and the Pinocchio and MBS do not preserve the character shape well.
They
Or
also transfer the animation or only one pose?
Maybe the one pose, only one pose.
Only one pose.
Yeah, because their method is targeting the pose transfer, not the. It can handle the motion transfer, but they just calculate the frame by frame. So it did not consider the connection of the frame between the frames.
Yeah, so theoretically they can apply the same technique over the animation sequence, then probably animation may be generated. But then they did not try that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, since they don't care about the skeleton, I'm wondering actually how they can handle the animation sequence other than just one pose shape.
The previous one, the previous method, or the
Well, this one,
proposed
without,
method?
this one, without skeleton, they can transfer the pose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one immediate idea was basically if they apply every single sequence over the animation, then probably animation transfer may be possible, but then at the same time, they may not be perfect. So in this case, since they don't have any skeleton information, probably although they can transfer the one shape, the animation may not be follow-up animation may not be possible.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not. I'm wondering they are discussing this in the limitation section.
I'll show the orientation section
Okay.
as related. Yeah. Is there any questions?
Did they get the ground truth information from just the animation data? Like, how did they get the ground truth pose for?
They use the training data. So the Mixamo and Regan, Mixamo has the animation data set, right? So the AMS and Mixamo and RigNet, I'm not sure the RigNet, and I'm not sure the RigNet has the poses, but the AMS and Mixamo has the pose animation. So they trained with that kind of, so it, the AMS has the poses right, like these figures, and Mixamo has the animation data set, so they trained with these kind of animations for training.
So the ground truth poses are made with retargeting method provided by the Mixamo, because you upload a character and you apply the animation in the Mixamo and you get that character with that animation data, right? through the mixable algorithm that's inside mixable. So
Yeah.
that's how they got the ground truth poses.
Yep. Yes, that's true. And Shihan, yeah, there is no temporal consistency in this method. So for characters with more diverse shape, these artifacts, the corrupt mesh, the mesh corrupts, it becomes stronger. In quantitative evaluation using pointwise mesh Euclidean distance, the proposed method showed better results compared with the other method. Also, in the case of predicted skinny weights, the proposed method showed better separation results for the deformation parts than the other two methods. So in summary, their contributions are as follows. This method is the first automatic method for post-transfer between weak-free 3D characters with diverse shape, topologies, and mesh connectivities. And they train the end-to-end manner in a supervised manner. And no manual intervention, no manual pre-processing, and mesh correspondence are required. And for limitations, there are two limitations in their method. First one is by this method is compute. So this method is focused on the post transfer. So by computing frame by frame, the method can handle motion retargeting. However, the connectivities between frames is not considered, so jittering and penetration may occur. Also, there can be implausible deformation results in local part motion.
Yeah. What? Yeah. I have a question. Yeah. Penetration and implausible deformation. Even if, I mean, you don't care about the animation, but then if you just target to one specific pose, then in this case, if this method works out nicely, then shouldn't there be any implausible deformation or penetration?
So I'm gonna show you what the penetration or local part implausible deformation
Okay.
in this figure.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe has nothing to do with the animation sequence. It's just even for the one pose, if that may happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I have a question. So
Okay.
this is a skeleton-free method,
Yep.
and they use the LBS without
Yep.
skeleton.
Yep.
So how is it possible to use LBS without skeleton?
I didn't contain the detailed one in detailed 수식 뭐지? 수식 갑자기
The equations?
Yeah, equations in this slide. Sorry, but there is the how to calculate in the paper. There is the how to calculate the vertex positions with some modified LBS equation. So please refer the paper.
So that equation does not require any skeleton, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you go the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, due to an unbalanced number of vertices on different body parts, it fails to handle small part motions such as the right hand direction. So the source is like parallel to the parallel, but the target motion is deformed like some kind of rotation. And because the deformation and translation of each body part are learned independently, it also fails to preserve local motion in the interdependence. So these kind of penetrations can occur. So to address these issues, Wang and his colleagues present the paper Hierarchical Mesh Coarsening for Skeleton-Free Motion Retargeting, which is uploaded on arXiv in this year. You can see that the result of proposed model follows the hand direction of source motion better, and it alleviates the intersection artifacts. The overview of the HMT is as follows. The inputs and output are same as the skeleton-free post-transfer method. Given post-mesh and rest mesh of source and rest mesh of target, the network predicts the post-mesh of target character similar to the source post. The difference is that the retargeting process is addressed in a coarse-to-fine fashion to gradually complement missing mesh details. So given the high resolution of the source meshes and target rest mesh, the recursive mesh coarsening process is applied for k times to coarsen inputs to the low resolution meshes, which possess fewest vertices while keeping characters morphology. And in addition, an approximate assigned mapping A between the vertices of the high resolution and low resolution meshes is also computed to ensure continuous mapping between these two meshes that can be lost in the coarsening process. And for more details about the A and how to compute the A, please refer the paper. And
But A0 is the original mesh, right? It's not coursed yet.
A0, yes,
So, but
from
then-
the input.
Yeah, so but you have this mesh coarsening box. So is the A0 output of the mesh coarsening? I guess A0 should be the original one, and then from A1 is the mesh.
So this part is just computed in the mesh coarsening part, but maybe actually I didn't understand how to calculate the A because there's too many equations. So but I think the A is from the A contains the like
Yeah, I guess the 0. I mean, superscript 0 means the original mesh.
so it contains the mapping between the input and course one meshes.
Yeah, so when you have the superscript 0, that corresponds to the original level mesh.
So it is used to map so
It's okay, mesh course, and then you go back to the course. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
thank you. So after that, the network complements missing details on low resolution meshes by applying the retargeting layers k times and gradually reconstruct the high resolution meshes. Given the coarsened source and target meshes, each retargeting layers predict part-wide deformation J tilde and skinning weight W. The architecture of retargeting layer is similar to the skeleton-free post-transfer method, which consists of mesh encoder and skinning predictor. From the Coruscant source meshes and target mesh, each post encoder encodes the vertex-wise post information, and each skinning predictor predicts the potential skinning weight of each vertex. And taking the difference between weighted post embeddings as input, the post decoder is trained to learn local deformation J for each part. The output low resolution post mesh is gradually refined by applying post local deformations like the J and W multiplied with the A, then it predicts the more high resolution post mesh, and recursively it reconstructs the high resolution target post mesh. So the training data set is also similar to the skeletal free post transfer method. So it used the AMS and Mixamo and ReefNet. So the result is as follows. So I'm not sure the result is better than FTP, but they said their result is better than SFPT. So for same motion and different characters, result is as follows. And it can be applied with the target character with different topologies.
Do they predict the global position of the root?
Global position of the root? So they did not consider the skeleton, so maybe there is no root in here.
I'm just I'm just curious because they're all floating.
Yeah. So I think they can elevate the local part artifact, but the overall result is not quite improved, I think. So, yeah.
So how can this hierarchical approach handle interpenetration when these two models have largely different shapes?
So like
What's the insight of this hierarchical approach?
so I think the hierarchical model is guaranteed the like first it predicts the overall motion, and it compensates the details one in recursively. So yeah, that is the benefit of the hierarchical model, I think.
Okay, if the target model has a very big leg or big belly, and they try to kick high, then still the interpenetration will occur even with this hierarchical approach.
Yeah, so I'll address that issue in the limitation pages.
Okay,
so
okay.
I found that artifacts in the result video. So maybe I think that is the limitation of this paper.
Okay.
My computer is not working. Yeah. Let's look more closely at how much the artifacts for local motion interdependence are alleviated. So for in this figure, so the SFPT result is quite like, so the hand is divided from the um, um, body model, but the proposed motion, proposed method can reconstruct the model correctly. And here the SFPT the reconstruction model from SFTP has the twisted mesh result. However, the proposed method are quite nice result, shows the quite nice results. And for the quantitative results also shows the proposed method are better than the other method. So in summary, they deal the skeleton-free motion retargeting problem with the hierarchical mesh coarsening method. So they use the two modules. The first one is mesh coarsening module to handle small part motion and preserve local motion interdependence. And they use the hierarchical refinement procedure to complement missing mesh details and thus produce high quality post meshes.
So in this case, do they claim that they can handle animation data?
They showed the more smooth one than the previous one, but so as you can see, the penetration artifact is quite big in here. So yeah, they as I remember, their input is not the post the motion sequence, so they can deal with the motion retarding better than the previous method. But as you can see in the video, there has the mesh penetration, like the arms are penetrated into the body, and they said they cannot handle the totally different morphologies, like quadruped from the quadruped to the biped. And the last one is this. In the same year, I found another related paper published in CBPR 2023, which is not the same author of previous one. And as you can see in the title, they proposed zero shot put retargeting for stylized characters with significantly different shapes. And before I introduced this paper, I'm sorry because I did not completely understand this paper. So this paper is I'll introduce this paper very briefly. So 그만 해주시길 바랍니다. So there are two learning-based modules to achieve their goals, and different with the previous two methods, they predict individual surface points deformation. So the previous two methods predict the part-wise deformation, but they predict the individual surface points. So for even a correct point and a runnable shape code, the shape understanding module estimates the correspondences between vertices of source and target mesh. And then the post deformation module deforms each surface point of the character to match the target pose. The overview of correspondence-aware shape understanding module is as follows. This module is learned to predict a latent shape code and part segmentation label of a 3D character in red pose. So to run representative shape code, they employ an auto decoder architecture that reconstructs the 3D character, taking the shape code as input. And using embedding E as a condition, they also train the model to predict occupancy, which indicate if the query point is inside or outside the body surface, and the part label key for each surface point. And after training the shape understanding module, they train an implicit pose deformation module to deform individual surface points to match the target pose. So given the learned shape code from the previous module and sampled pose code and query points around the surface, a neural implicit function M estimates the offset of X in 3D space. And instead of learning a latent pose space from scratch, they use the corresponding pose code in the latent space of VPoser, which is trained with the large-scale AMS dataset. So it facilitates faster training and provide robustness to overfitting. And through the utility of VPoser in different modalities, such as videos, this model can be applied to transfer poses from various modalities to an unrigged stylized character. So the training data set is as follows. For the biped, to train the shape understanding module, I forgot the reference, sorry. So they use the unclosed SMPL and RigNet character models. And for the pose deformation module, they use the VPoser dataset, as I mentioned. And for the quadruped, they use the SMAL small model, which is similar to the SMPL model, but it contains the quadruped models. So the result is as follows. They can handle the various stylized character in Gaussian manner, like this. And with the benefit of the VPoser latent space, they can post transfer from video to stylized character like this. And the method also can handle the quadruped models. And compared with the previous method, the proposed method is nice. Show the better results than other methods. So the NBS and SPT meshes are collapsed. But the proposed method shows the quite nice mesh reconstruction. And as you already know, they show the in quantitative evaluation, they show the best results compared with the previous method. And with the predicted the part-wise label, they also shows the better results of the segmentation. So NBS makes the wrong predictions for hair and feet, and so this is the skeleton-free post-transfer module. So it may mix the upper legs like this, but compared with this method, the proposed method is quite nice, separate the parts of the bodies. So in contribution, they also propose the learning-based models for stylized 3D character deformation with the human and animal meshes, and they generalize the model to unseen stylized characters and arbitrary poses in a generation manner. And I did not contain the experiments in this slide, but they did the extensive experiments on both human and quadruped models. So they did not provide their limitations, but I think the motion retargeting, the pose retargeting is good, but the motion, for the motion, there is still the jittering artifact like this. So, yeah. So long story too short, the SFTP skeleton free post transfer model contribution is the first automatic method for post transfer between rig-free 3D characters. And compared with these two models, they train the end-to-end manner and semi-supervised manner. And HMC deals the skeleton-free character motion retargeting with the hierarchical architecture, and they showed their results preserve the local part motions, including handling small part motions and preserving local motion interdependence. And the last one proposed the zero shot post transfer for unrigged stylized 3D characters. And they estimate the positional offset for each vertex rather than part-wise transformation used in these two methods. So that's all for my presentation. Is there any questions in chatting? Is some kind of
Thank you
question?
so much for your great presentation. I had a question.
Okay.
Whenever I read a paper, I usually ask myself how I can use this paper in my own research or in our lab research. The ideas that you shared, one of them was a skeleton-free structure that was almost new. Is there any other task in motion domain that we can apply this skeleton-free structure to that rather than motion retargeting? Do you think?
Good question. So
You should think about it. Maybe it's not, we don't have it right now. I was just want to quickly give some ideas for everyone in motion team. And the other question is that you introduced shape understanding module. It was new in the CVPR paper. I never saw something like that. Can we use it? Do you think the character team, can we use it for face animation? Because it's similar structure. Here is motion retargeting. In facial animation, you need to induce the emotion. So smiling. So maybe take CVPR paper, apply to face domain. You might have a paper, or take a sketch free structure and apply it to some part. And the third thing is that for hierarchical, the second paper. The ideas were also neat and tidy. They were beautiful in some coursing things. I don't know where we need it. So what I wanted to, why I asked these three questions is that I wanted to encourage whenever we read a paper, we try to find out how we can use it in our lab and in our own research. That might be even more important than small details, and it might help a lot. So maybe answering these three questions on your own, or we can discuss it later. It might help us to initiate new research in the lab or collaborate. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yep, I think the for the facial animation, these methods can be also utilized because they use just the mesh based. They use the vertex. So the for the facial and body animation, they also both researchers use the vertex mesh. So yeah, so I think it can be used in both researches. And that is some kind of transformation for the presentation in some kind of transformation. Yep, the A is the complex equations. So please refer the paper, and if you understand that equation, please yeah. 기억이 안 나요, 갑자기.
I think A was something like a how could I say it? It's something like I think should be something like a PCA where you're reducing the number of dimensions. I think it's doing something really similar, and they're using that. I'm not sure whether it's a vector matrices, but they're using that to reconstruct higher order meshes again. So I think you can think of it as a transformation function or a matrices to find that. I'm not sure. I haven't read it, by the way. So just a plain guess. And I had a question regarding like all of these papers. It's like I'm not sure whether these methods are a generic method where you have trained one neural network model to try out different kind of meshes or not. But it seems like in my understanding, the third one might not be a generic method, but the other two, since they're just predicting the local deformation, it seems like it. So is that correct?
Yeah, I think so, because they use the difference between the source poses, so it might be the used for helpful to how to target characters, move the desired pose. So yeah, this one is the compress the meshes. Yeah. So um, I can think something, but I cannot explain how. I cannot describe how I can explain. So I'll tell you later. Yeah. And maybe your comments is right. I think. Timo?
I have a question about throughout all these papers. Since they're retargeting animation from source to target with various models, I wonder if they have been registered in same topology mesh, or is it possible to apply to random scanned 3D data? I wonder if this 3D, what is the format of the input 3D representation? Does it have to be in the same topology, or it doesn't matter, or yeah.
So for the AMS and the AMS and MGN dataset, they use the same topologies because they consist of the SMPR model. But however, the Mixamo and ReasonNet has the various topological models. So I'm not sure how they sample the data from these data sets, because I cannot find the good supplementary documents about these papers. So after I search it and find them, I'll share you the documents.
Okay, and
I
I
think
also
one of the contribution, if I remember correctly, was applying to arbitrary meshes. So it shouldn't, I mean, it does not have to be a common mesh structure.
And the last paper is using only the SMPL model, but they can handle the various models in the Daejeon, but they use only SMPL model in training. They read.
if if it can be applied to arbitrary meshes, then I wonder how they managed to make the latent space vector size into same sizes with the source and target. Since if you kind of use graph convolution or just neural convolutional network, if the input size is different, the latent resulting vector or feature should not match the dimension size. So I wonder how they proceed this thing. Would there be any description about this? If it's samples
Maybe-
some, yeah.
Maybe there is, but I cannot remember of that. But I and I cannot see the like transfer the like quadruped to biped, like these kind of very big differences. So it can be transferred the like humanoid models, like it contains the 2 arms and 2 legs and 1 head. So,
Well, I think Xiang's question is about what is the improved format of the mesh, since mesh have very different vertex number and connectivity. So, and in the end, if you have different connectivity and structures, how could you enforce to have a common like feature representation in the latent space?
so the previous 2 methods is predict the part-wide deformation, not the per vertex deformation. So it contains like, so the vertex in here is deformed with the related body, related part meshes, and the GPT predicts the per vertex transformation, but I'm not sure how they deal with that. And for this, I must be understand how the shape code and postcode is composed, but I cannot understand what is the shape of the pre-poser postcode and how the shape code is made. So yeah, sorry for the bad answers.
I think the shape code is the shape parameter of the simple, since pre-poser predicts the shape and the pose. So yeah, and what was the M representing for?
M is the postcode for the pre-poser, the blind shape code.
And Sean, for the first paper, they used the graph convolution network for different number of the vertex. In my view,
Pardon?
they use graph convolution network for
In
the
the first
different.
paper?
Yeah, first paper. I haven't read the second and third paper, but for the first paper, they use that method.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not mention it in this slide, but they use the graph convolution network, and maybe the second one is similar to the first one. Maybe.
Okay.
Why is method called zero shot again?
Pardon?
Why is this method called zero shot?
So they use the like they use the widely used mesh like SMPL model for the training, and they just deals with the stylized models in the inference, not at the inference, not the training. So zero shot means that they did not use the stylized characters in training, but they can deal with that kind of very dynamic characters at the inference.
So style comes from the video, not explicitly from the 3D model. Is that right?
Style is from the model. So style.
Okay.
Yeah, so they only training with the SMPL and the SMAL model, but they can deal with these kind of various models at inference. So
Right.
they set the zero shot constraint. Any other questions?
So I think the third paper is actually kind of nice because what they're doing is they're not actually taking the whole mesh as input, and what they're doing is to just take the S is I think some kind of a mesh representation. I'm not sure how they got it, and they're just feeding the position of the surface point of the meshes. So in the end, it doesn't really have to be SMPL model. You're just if let's suppose S is a mesh and like some kind of embedded style vector, and then if you sample a vertices from not vertices surface point from any couple like any meshes, you're just predicting the displacement. So in the end, it's not it doesn't really depend on the structure of the model, but what you have to do is to just not subsample, but use all the vertices of a new model to predict the deformed character in the end. So I think this is a really nice method to handle this kind of task, and I think it's quite interesting. You can think of this as a nerf. If you think about it, nerf takes XYZ and Y theta as an input and renders a pixel RGB at position XY. So it's something like this. You're just feeding all the position information in the neural network and then decoding it into 3D space to do their task.